Good morning, everybody. This is Becky here at Aunt Beck's Creations, and I'm going to talk about a magazine that is no longer available. But I did put a link down below in the description box to American Patchwork and Quilting's website, and it's to the page that includes patterns for all kinds of bags, totes, bags, purses, all that kind of stuff. You can find a whole bunch of different ones if you want to make a handmade bag for somebody for Christmas, if you sew at all. Their site is amazing for bag patterns. But I do want to share something I've made, and it was in an issue of Quilts and More. And I am just so heartbroken that this is not put out anymore. It was never available by subscription. They'd always say, well, you can subscribe to American Patchwork and Quilting. But I wanted this magazine because it's Quilts and More. If they would start adding small projects in the quilting magazine, I would probably be as interested in it. I mean, I'm interested in the quilting. Don't get me wrong. I love quilting. I don't do it very much anymore, but I do love to see what other people make. And the Quilts and More included so much more. So I thought we'd do a flip through a couple of these. This is the one I use to make something, and we'll talk about that after we flip through it. And let's see, can you see everything without a glare? There we go. So you can see there are still quilts in this magazine, but then they have like a bag here, a bag here. This is like a portable tic-tac-toe game for kids where you have the grid over here and a zippered pocket on this side to hold whatever you're using for your tic-tacs and your toes, whatever. Little pin cushions, wall hangings, pillows. I mean, it included everything. And by the way, if I didn't say good morning, Nina, and the other three of y'all that are watching, good morning. So we'll just flip through here. I loved it that it talked about new products that were in for sewing and quilting. It was the perfect magazine for me. And this is an article about sewing needles, on what to use, what size, what, sharps or ballpoints or leather needles, all that kind of stuff. There's a whole article about brain and mental health in here and mindful making. I need to read this article so I don't overdo and hurt myself. But then you start in the projects. Okay, these three designers were all given these fabrics. And so one came up with a pillow, one came up with a wall hanging, and one made a full quilt. And just seeing that would inspire me to just get those fabrics to make something, because all three projects are beautiful. And it was interesting to see how each designer took the fabrics and utilized them. And then they give you the instructions on how to make those three items. I'm going fast because I want to get through this one. All right, here's those little pin cushions. And boy, they use some real tiny pieces. These are all different fabrics along here. But that makes a cute pin cushion. That would make a great stocking stuffer for a sewer, somebody that sews. And it's just that I think it finishes, it finishes 4 inches square. So that would fit into like a portable sewing bag. And you could use that like on a plane, a bus, a train, to have somewhere to stick your pin when you were working on something, or your needle. Some more about foundation printing there. And then they have this quilt, which is a stunner. It looks like it's done in strips. So you make blocks that go here and then blocks that go there, and then you put them together to create this magnificent quilt. And I'm not an orange person, but I like the way they've combined this orange and peach with kind of this earthy green looking color. It's very pretty. There it is when it's all opened up. There's a patriotic table mat. I made this for my nephew Kane, but I did it in like boy colors. I made that when I was in Greenville, and I think I shared it on my channel. I didn't realize this was the same magazine. That's funny. I didn't make one for his little brother. I probably should, but his little brother's a year old now. I'm not really connected to my entire family anymore. Sad but true. Make some coasters. There's another beautiful quilt. I know a lot of people are watching Anne over at Ginger Cat Lady. She's over there. Okay, this is the pack your bags. This is the bag that I've made. And I made one for myself, and I'm going to make one for the Advent calendar. So those that are here or watching this know that one of these is going to be in one of your packages to whoever wins it. This is the one I made for myself. And I saw this, and what I thought of is when we were traveling for our anniversary, it was difficult carrying all our medications. So this will hold all of our medicines, and it's just the perfect size. It's got the zipper on the side here, and then it just opens up like that. Let's see if I can get it where you can see the inside of the bag. It's just going all dark. Let's turn this off and see if that helps. There we go. It's got colorful kitties on the inside. Let's see. There you go. That's what's inside. And it just opens like a mouth, and you can see in there. And so I'm not going to show the one that's going to be in the Advent calendar, but Mina has a sneak peek, so she'll be sure to enter to win because she's in the USA. And I'm going to make that one up today. And it's just perfect. Both the lining and the outer fabric have interfacing on them, and that's why it stays, it stays in shape. And you use a 14-inch zipper, and then you actually center the zipper, and after you've gotten the sides all attached, you cut off the excess. So you don't really need a 14-inch zipper, but it makes sewing the bag together so much easier. For some reason, I had three 14-inch zippers. I may have some that are longer. And but anyway, there's that little bag, and I just think it's so stinking cute. But as I say, birthing this bag was interesting. If you forget to open your zipper, which I did not forget because I know it's a nightmare, but if you're making a bag, pay attention to where they tell you to open your zipper like part way. Because if you don't and you finish sewing up, you're not going to have a way to turn this bag right side out. You leave a 4-inch opening on the bottom of the lining, and then you have to have the zipper open so you can get the lining and the outside of the bag all turned right side out. The construction of this bag was really interesting, and we can kind of look at that here. So it takes 2 fat quarters, and then you apply the interfacing the same size as a fat quarter. You apply it to the back of this piece of fat quarter, which is an 18 by 22. And then they tell you to cut a 12 by 15 rectangle, an 8 by 12 inch rectangle, and a 2 by 12 rectangle out of your fabrics. And then you start putting them together. You make the little handle, which was super easy to make. And then once you make the handle, you set that aside. And then you start putting the zipper between the layers. And right here, they tell you to open the zipper part way. And this is a tip if you're doing a bag like this and you have to open the zipper and then this side is going to be floppy while you're working on it. What I did is I pulled my zipper back so it was closed. And on the end of the zipper, I took one of these office clips and I just clipped the end of the zipper so it was in the same position as if the zipper was closed, so that it would make it easier to sew after I've opened this up. Because as soon as you open your zipper part way, the zipper's going to divide, and it'll be hard to sew. So I just put a little clip on the end of the zipper and I was able to sew around. And then you bring your outside fabric, bigger rectangle up to the smaller rectangle and sew those. And then you do the same for the lining. And then this gets all kind of interesting here because once you get the two linings together like this, then you're going to lay it flat, put it flat down so that that seam you just made lines right up with the zipper. And then you're going to put clips to hold it in position. And then you do that on the outside fabric and the lining. So what you're going to do is, you can see how they've got this looks like an X. What you do is sew from this outer edge to the zipper on just the outside fabric, and the same along here and here and here. And then you do the lining fabric the same way. And once those are sewn separate, then you lay this all flat and you sew across the end of your zipper and then cut the rest of the zipper away. And that's this. Doing all of this would be difficult if you didn't put a clip on the end of the zipper. And I'm really surprised they didn't tell you that. So that's just an additional. And then you mark a 2 inch by 2 1/4 inch little box here on all of the corners. So do it on every corner, and then you take your scissors and you cut these squares out of both the outer fabric and the lining. And then you do like you do for boxes, you bring the bottom up to the side and fold it flat and sew across like this. Which was not hard at all on the larger rectangle side, but the side where the zipper is, there is not a lot of room to work there. That gave me a headache. And once you do the lining, then you have to repeat it for the outside. But when you're doing the part toward the top of the bag, you got to remember to insert your handle before you sew this seam right here. There are no exposed seams. By the time you sew all of this, all the seams will be between the layers, which was really nice. You don't have to bind any seams with seam tape or anything. I was so addicted to this magazine at the start of the video, or the picture for this video. You'll see that I have, I think, every issue. See, there's my books. These are all Quilts and More. Because when it was due to come out, I would go to Joann's and I would look for it because it was available in the stores only. And so I think I even have the pattern for this bag. It was a series of 4 bags. These were done in 2020 by Jessica Van Denberg. So I don't know if the bags that were in Quilts and More are all in the link that I shared, but there's a lot of them in there. So I was just going to look through these and see if there's some other bags I'd like to make. There's that little tote, and that's just made with strips. So if you had like a strip set or a jelly roll, you could make a bag. And if you bought a jelly roll, you could make a bunch of different bags from one jelly roll. Your grandmother and your mom were both quilters? Oh, cool. I have made a bunch of quilt tops, and after I get past Christmas, I'm going to start quilting on them probably one at a time. I threatened Scott with, since we have 2 wooden quilt frames, I threatened him with setting one up for him to quilt. He's like, I don't think so. Oh, Pastry Queen is on. Oh, dear. Well, I'm going to look through these. If I come across any that look really interesting and I sew them up for any reason, I'll share them. But that's what I'm going to do this morning. I'm going to go watch Leanna now. And I had thought about flipping through some more. But please, if you do want to make something for someone, a young lady would love a makeup bag or a personal hygiene bag or that kind of thing. I want to get back to my bag that I'm going to work on because I'm going to work on it this morning. So that's the little bag I made. And this is why I loved Quilts and More and American Patchwork and Quilting. I love you too, but this was my favorite bag of all time. Not bag, favorite magazine of all time. And I miss it. It was such fun to go on the hunt for the latest issue. So, and I kept writing to them and I said, please make this a subscription. And they said, no. So I'm going to let you go. Have a great day. Thanks for being here, Mina. Means a lot to me. All right. Bye. Oh, there's Heather.